should have known something was wrong when I saw how my hands trembled while opening that crumpled manila envelope. But desperation has a way of making you ignore red flags. And after 6 months of failed auditions in Hollywood, I was desperate enough to take any job that would have me. The sun was bleeding into the horizon when I pulled into Roy's Motel, the kind of place you'd miss if you blinked while driving down Route 66. The neon sign flickered erratically, Rose Motel, like it was trying to warn me away in Morse code. I parked next to a rusty pickup truck, its wheels sunk into the asphalt as if it had been there for decades. The lobby smelled like stale cigarettes and something else. Something older and mustier. An ancient pocket watch sat on the front desk, its hands frozen at 4:04, the glass face spiderwebbed with cracks. What caught my eye were the photographs on the walls, rows of night clerks through the years. Their faces were strangely distorted, like they'd been caught in motion when the pictures were taken, or like something had been moving inside them when the shutter clicked. The manager appeared so suddenly I nearly jumped. He was tall and gray, the kind of gray that comes from never seeing sunlight, and he never told me his name. No interview, no questions about my experience. Just a quick, "You'll do," and a ring of keys that felt too cold in my hand. As he turned to leave, he paused. "Check the bottom drawer. Everything you need to know is in there." Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a finality that made my stomach turn. I found the envelope in the drawer beneath stacks of yellowed paperwork. Inside was a single sheet of paper, stained and wrinkled, with what looked like burn marks around the edges. The handwriting started neat, but grew increasingly frantic, as if the writer had been in a hurry, or afraid. Rules for night shift at Roy's Motel. Follow exactly, no exceptions. Rule 1. Every hour on the hour, check the mirror behind the front desk. If you don't see your reflection, step outside for exactly 3 minutes before returning. My eyes moved to the ornate mirror behind me. Its silver frame was tarnished black in places, and I could have sworn the glass rippled when I wasn't looking directly at it. Rule 2. Don't answer the phone if it rings at 3:13 a.m. It will ring only once. Ignore it. Rule 3. If you see someone standing in the parking lot, don't make eye contact. They aren't real. I glanced out the window. The parking lot was empty, but something moved in my peripheral vision. When I turned to look, there was nothing there. Rule 4. The room key labeled 13 should never be given out, no matter what. If someone insists, check them into room 3 and tell them it's the only available room. Curious, I checked the key rack. The key to room 13 was different from the others, older, with strange symbols scratched into its surface. When I touched it, the metal felt like ice, and I could have sworn I heard distant whispering. Rule 5. If you hear someone whistling in the lobby, go to the back room and lock the door. Do not come out until the whistling stops. Rule 6. At 4:04 a.m., the lights in the entire motel will flicker. During this time, cover the security cameras with the provided black cloth. Remove it only once the flickering stops. I found the black cloth folded neatly in the drawer. It felt damp, though there was no water on my hands when I touched it. Rule 7. Sometimes, a black cat will appear in the lobby. Do not approach it or try to touch it. Let it leave on its own. Rule 8. If a guest leaves a note at checkout saying, "See you soon," burn it in the back lot. Do not keep it. Rule 9. Under no circumstances should you use the restroom in room 7. If it is occupied, leave it alone. As I read the last rule, the lights flickered once, and I heard something that sounded like laughter from the direction of room 7. I wanted to convince myself this was some kind of joke, an initiation prank for new employees. But as I sat there in the growing darkness, watching my reflection in that ancient mirror, I knew deep down these rules existed for a reason. And as the night wore on, I would learn exactly why each one was written in blood-red ink. What happened during my first night at Roy's Motel still haunts me. I'm writing this down as a warning, but also as evidence, because if you're reading this, it means I made it through the night. And if you ever find yourself driving down Route 66 and see a flickering sign for Roy's Motel, keep driving. Some jobs aren't worth taking, and some rules are written in blood for a reason. It was midnight when the first rule proved itself true. I'd been scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from the oppressive silence of the lobby, when movement in the mirror caught my eye. My reflection was staring straight at me, even though I was looking down at my phone. I froze, thumb hovering over the screen. Slowly, I raised my head to look directly at the mirror. My reflection smiled, not my usual awkward grin, but something wider, wrong, like its face had too many teeth. As I watched in horror, it pressed its hand against the glass from the other side, leaving a dark, wet imprint that slowly began to drip. Rule 1. Every hour on the hour, check the mirror behind the front desk. If you don't see your reflection, step outside for exactly 3 minutes before returning. The memory of the rule hit me like a bucket of ice water. I scrambled to check my phone. 12 a.m. exactly. Looking back at the mirror, I saw only the empty lobby reflected back at me. Where I should have been standing, there was nothing but vacant space. My legs moved before my brain could process what was happening. I practically ran outside, clicking my phone's timer for 3 minutes. The parking lot was darker than it should have been, the streetlights creating pools of sickly yellow light that seemed to retreat from where I stood. That's when I saw her. A woman in a faded blue dress, standing motionless between two parked cars. She was too tall, her proportions slightly wrong, like someone had stretched a normal person just a bit too far. Rule 3. If you see someone standing in the parking lot, don't make eye contact. They aren't real. I kept my eyes fixed on the ground, counting every second. The air grew colder, and I could hear footsteps on the asphalt getting closer. Slow, dragging steps, accompanied by a wet sound, like someone walking with water-filled shoes. My phone buzzed. 3 minutes. I rushed back inside, slamming the door behind me. My reflection was back in the mirror, but now it looked younger, like me from 5 years ago when I first arrived in Hollywood, full of dreams and ambition. It winked at me before matching my movements again. I could still hear those wet footsteps outside, circling the building. The front desk phone rang suddenly, making me jump. I checked the time. 12:13 a.m. Not 3:13 a.m. Not the forbidden time mentioned in rule number 2. I picked up with trembling hands. Roy's Motel, how can I... Jimmy? A woman's voice, distant and distorted. Jimmy, is that you? I've been trying to reach you. I'm not Jimmy, I said. This is Justin. A long pause, then laughter, high and hysterical, like breaking glass. Not yet, she whispered, but you will be. They all become Jimmy eventually. The line went dead. With shaking hands, I pulled out the rules again, studying them more carefully. The paper felt different now, warmer, almost alive. The red ink seemed to pulse faintly in the fluorescent light. A scratching sound drew my attention to the front desk. The black cat mentioned in Rule 7 sat there, watching me with eyes that reflected no light. It opened its mouth as if to meow, but instead, I heard a man's voice. First hour down, Justin. Only 7 more to go. The cat vanished, leaving behind a small pool of water that slowly spelled out Jimmy before evaporating. I looked at my name tag in the mirror. The letters seemed to shift and blur. For a moment, I could have sworn it read Jimmy, but when I blinked, it was back to Justin. Something told me this was going to be the longest night of my life, if I survived it at all. The next few hours passed in a blur of hourly mirror checks and jumping at shadows. Each time I looked in the mirror, my reflection seemed younger, more like this Jimmy person the phone caller had mentioned. The photos of past night clerks on the wall all started to look familiar, like variations of the same person at different ages. At 2:45 a.m., I heard it, a soft, melodic whistling coming from somewhere in the lobby. The tune was familiar but wrong somehow, like a lullaby played in reverse. Rule 5. If you hear someone whistling in the lobby, go to the back room and lock the door. Do not come out until the whistling stops. My hand was on the back room doorknob when I realized I'd left the rules on the front desk. The whistling grew louder, and now I could hear footsteps too. Slow, deliberate steps that seemed to come from every direction at once. I pulled the door open and ducked inside, turning the lock with trembling fingers. The back room was small and dusty, lit by a single bare bulb that cast more shadows than light. Old uniforms hung on a rack, dozens of them, all with the same name tag: Jimmy. The whistling was right outside the door now. Through the keyhole, I could see something moving in the lobby, a dark shape that bent and twisted in ways nothing human should move. It stopped at the front desk, and I heard paper rustling. It was reading the rules. The whistling changed to humming, then to words in a language I didn't recognize but somehow understood. All Jimmys must learn. All Jimmys must change. All Jimmys must stay. My name tag felt hot against my chest. When I looked down, the letters were definitely changing, morphing slowly from Justin to Jimmy. The humming stopped abruptly. In the silence that followed, I heard scratching at the door, not from the outside, but from inside the door itself, as if something was trying to claw its way out of the wood. When the scratching finally stopped, I waited an extra 5 minutes before opening the door. The lobby was empty, but something had changed. The mirror behind the desk now showed hundreds of reflections layered on top of each other, all slightly different versions of the same face, my face, aging backward and forward, all of them mouthing the same word: Jimmy. I ran to the front desk and grabbed the rules paper. New words had appeared at the bottom in fresh, wet red ink. Rule 10. Once you become Jimmy, you can never leave. Jimmy is all. Jimmy is forever. The phone started ringing. I looked at my watch. 3:13 a.m. Rule 2. Don't answer the phone if it rings at 3:13 a.m. It will ring only once. Ignore it. The phone's ring pierced the silence like a scream. One long, drawn-out tone that seemed to vibrate through my bones. I gripped the edge of the desk, my knuckles white, fighting every instinct to pick it up. The ring continued far longer than it should have. 10 seconds. 20. 30. Inside my chest, my heart matched its rhythm. When I glanced at my reflection in the mirror, my younger self was reaching for the phone, grinning that too wide grin. Don't, I whispered to myself. Rule number 2. Don't answer it. The ringing stopped abruptly, replaced by a silence so complete it felt like pressure against my eardrums. Then I heard it, a voice coming from the phone, speaking clearly despite the receiver being down. Jimmy, why won't you talk to your mother? It was my mother's voice, but wrong. Like someone had recorded her words and played them back underwater. I hadn't spoken to her since leaving for Hollywood 2 years ago. I'm not, I started to say, but caught myself. Don't engage. It's not real. Jimmy, I saw what you did. The voice changed, becoming deeper, distorted. We all saw what you did to get this job. The others never stood a chance, did they? Images flashed through my mind, memories that weren't mine. A dark highway, headlights in a rearview mirror, a shovel breaking frozen ground. But that wasn't me. I hadn't done anything to get this job. Had I? The security cameras caught my attention. On each screen, a different version of myself stared back, each one at a different age, each one wearing a name tag that read, Jimmy. They were all performing the same task, digging holes in the back lot. Rule 6. At 4:04 a.m., the lights in the entire motel will flicker. During this time, cover the security cameras with the provided black cloth. Remove it only once the flickering stops. It wasn't 4:04 yet, but I grabbed the black cloth anyway, my hands shaking as I covered each camera. As I reached the last one, I saw something that made my blood freeze. In the back lot, where the cameras had shown my other selves digging, there was a fresh mound of dirt. And rising from it, a hand, pale and dirty, wearing a Roy's Motel uniform sleeve with a name tag that read, Jimmy. The phone began to ring again. Jimmy, come join us. There's always room for one more Jimmy. I stumbled backward, knocking over a stack of papers. A yellowed newspaper clipping fluttered to the floor. The headline read, Local motel employee missing. James Jimmy Sullivan last seen during night shift. The date was from 1987. Below it, another clipping. Night clerk disappears without trace. 1995. And another. Roy's Motel seeks new night staff after mysterious departure. 2003. Each article showed the same photo. My face, but with different names, different years. All of them, Jimmy. The black cat appeared on the desk, its eyes now glowing a deep red. Time flows differently here, it said in that same man's voice from before. Jimmy is not a person. Jimmy is a position that must be filled, and you. It tilted its head, whiskers twitching. You're almost ready. I looked down at my name tag again. The letters had almost completely transformed. J-I-M-Y. The cat vanished, leaving behind another puddle of water. This time it spelled out, Only 2 hours left until you're one of us. The clock read 3:33 a.m. Soon it would be 4:04, and I had a terrible feeling about what those flickering lights would reveal. After the phone incident, I couldn't stay still. I paced the lobby, checking and rechecking the rules, trying to make sense of what was happening. That's when I heard it. A sound that shouldn't have been possible in an empty motel. Running water. It was coming from room 7. Rule 9. Under no circumstances should you use the restroom in room 7. If it is occupied, leave it alone. The sound grew louder, accompanied by what might have been humming or crying. It was hard to tell which. Against my better judgment, I found myself walking down the hallway, the old carpet squishing wetly beneath my feet, though it looked completely dry. Room 7's door was ajar, a sliver of bluish light spilling into the hallway. The humming was clearer now, that same reversed lullaby from earlier. Water was seeping out from under the door, but it moved wrong, flowing upward along the walls instead of across the floor. I knew I should turn back, but something was drawing me forward. Through the gap in the door, I could see the bathroom light flickering, and in those flashes, I saw them. Dozens of reflections in the bathroom mirror, each one a different Jimmy, each one staring back with hollow, dripping eyes. My name tag burned against my chest. When I looked down, only the final letter remained to be changed. Jim. A voice echoed from the bathroom, this time my own. Come on in, Jimmy. The water's fine. It's time to see what's on the other side of the mirror. I ran back to the lobby, heart pounding. The pocket watch on the desk, frozen at 4:04, had started ticking backward. Each tick sent vibrations through the floor, making the walls pulse like a living thing. Rule 6. At 4:04 a.m., the lights in the entire motel will flicker. During this time, cover the security cameras with the provided black cloth. Remove it only once the flickering stops. I grabbed the black cloth with trembling hands. 4:03 a.m. The security monitors showed every version of Jimmy, every version of me, moving in sync, approaching their respective cameras. Their faces were melting, running like wax, reshaping themselves into mine. 4:04 a.m. hit like a thunderclap. The lights began to flicker, each flash revealing something different. Flash, the lobby filled with standing water. Flash, all the furniture on the ceiling. Flash, every surface covered in writing, Jimmy, repeated thousands of times. Flash, the walls bleeding that same red ink from the rules. I rushed to cover the cameras, but I wasn't fast enough. In the last monitor, I saw what the flickering was revealing in room 7. A massive mirror that took up the entire wall, and behind its surface, countless faces pressed against the glass like people drowning. The black cat appeared on every screen I hadn't covered yet, its voice coming through all the speakers at once. Poor Jimmy, always running. But you can't run from yourself, can you? Rule 13. When did this appear? The mirror shows who you really are, who you've always been, who you'll always be. I hadn't noticed the rules paper in my hand, but there it was, new rules appearing in wet red letters as I watched. Rule 14. Every Jimmy thinks they're different. They're not. Rule 15. The more you deny it, the faster it happens. Rule 16. Look in the mirror. Accept who you are. My reflection in the front desk mirror was completely different now. Not me, not any version of Jimmy I'd seen, but something older, something that had been wearing faces like masks for longer than I could comprehend. That's when I remembered Rule 3. If you see someone standing in the parking lot, don't make eye contact. They aren't real. But what if they were? What if they were all the Jimmys who had tried to escape? I rushed to the window. The parking lot was full now. Dozens of figures in Roy's Motel uniforms, all facing the building, all wearing my face. The lights flickered one final time, and in that moment, I saw the truth in the security monitors. Every Jimmy, in every time, making the same realizations, going through the same motions. We were all part of something bigger, something that had been feeding on night clerks since the motel first opened. The last hour of my shift revealed the horrible truth. I wasn't replacing Jimmy. I had always been Jimmy. Every night clerk who had ever worked at Roy's Motel was just another version of the same entity, trapped in an endless cycle. The black cat sat on the desk one last time, but now I could see what it really was. A tear in reality, showing the void behind the motel's facade. "Do you understand now?" it asked, its voice a chorus of every Jimmy who had ever existed. "This isn't a job. It's a transformation, a becoming. Every night, in every possible version of this motel, someone becomes Jimmy. Some fight it, some accept it, but it always ends the same way." I looked down at my name tag. The final letter changed. J-I-M-M-Y. The mirror behind the desk cracked, a spiderweb of fractures spreading across its surface. In each fragment, I saw a different version of myself. Past, present, future, all existing simultaneously. All Jimmy. The walls of the motel began to fold in on themselves, reality bending like paper in a flame. Through the windows, I could see other versions of the motel, stacked on top of each other, extending infinitely in every direction. Final rule, written in my own handwriting. There is no escape from Roy's Motel. There is only Jimmy. As the sun rose, I understood my role. I took out a wrinkled napkin and began writing. Rules for night shift at Roy's Motel. Tonight, someone else who thinks they're not Jimmy will walk through that door. They'll find these rules, just like I did, just like I always have, just like I always will. They'll read them. They'll try to follow them. They'll become Jimmy. Because that's what this place does. It's not a motel. It's a conversion point, a place where reality thins and identity becomes fluid. Every night, across countless dimensions, someone takes the night shift at Roy's Motel. And every night, Jimmy is reborn. So if you're reading this, if you've taken the job, check your name tag. Watch the letters change. Accept what's happening. Because fighting it only makes it worse. Trust me, I know. I'm Jimmy. I've always been Jimmy. And soon, you will be too. Note found in the desk drawer, written in red ink that never seems to dry. The night shift at Roy's Motel is currently accepting applications. Previous experience not required. All Jimmys welcome.